Hey, One Piece fans, this is Chris Boltz, and I'm coming in with an episode recap and review of this week's episode 1145, Friends Fight Together, Luffy and the Warriors of Elbaf. Now, before I do get into the content, do make sure you like, share, subscribe, turn on those post notifications. All that stuff really does help me out. Now, it appears that One Piece is going to be going back to a old tactic of theirs, which is namely to go ahead and do recaps before the actual episode. And me personally, when you do a recap plus the opening theme, plus the ending theme, plus a preview of the next episode, that is taking out about 5 minutes altogether of content that can be dedicated directly towards the actual episode in question. So it's kind of unfortunate. For a while there, One Piece did go ahead and get rid of the ending theme, and actually they didn't have previews for the next episode either. They just had the episode and then it ended. They did that for a bit there, but then it seems like Toei is starting to go back into form with putting back in the recaps, putting in the previews and the ending and opening themes. Some people may appreciate that. I always appreciate the opening themes. The opening themes of One Piece are some of the most iconic music there is for any kind of anime. I really love theme songs. Make theme music great again. That's one of the big things that's missing from American entertainment. But I digress on all of that. We're here to talk about this current episode, about what's going on right here. So we go ahead and catch up. And this is St. Marcus Mars in his Itsumade form, big giant bird. And once again, like I said in the last recap and review that I did of last week's episode, this thing reminds us of something that Pain would actually go ahead and summon. If you guys are familiar with Pain from Naruto Shippuden, he was able to control 5 different people after they were dead. And one of them had a summoning feature, and she summoned all kinds of weird creatures. This bird right here reminds me of that, very demonic, and he is casting some very strong haki. And you see that Jinbei is coming over there to get Zoro because they need to get up out of there ASAP, because this is not something that they can currently go ahead and play with right now. Lucci has been utterly defeated. He's still standing there even with those 3 strikes that Zoro had placed on him that ended their battle. He still has that fire in his eyes that he wants to fight, but they don't have time to deal with that. And that's where Jinbei come in, do his fisherman karate to basically throw up a smoke screen so that they can get out of there. And they needed to get out of there quickly because Itsumade has made landfall, has gotten in contact with Lucci, and he is direct and to the point. I need to know where some people are at, and you're going to tell me right now. And Lucci, he's afraid. He knows exactly who this is. Tsumade's asking, where's York? York being the Vegapunk model that actually betrayed Stella Vegapunk and snitched them out to the world governments because she did not want to be part of the Vegapunk crew. She wanted to be part of the Celestial Dragons. Lucci there telling them where she is currently located. And after he tells them all that, he's trying to save Kaku's life because Kaku is injured. And Stussy is also there with her, but he doesn't make any mention of Stussy. He doesn't say anything about Stussy. He only makes a mention Kaku because he wants to save Kaku's life. But there's Kaku right there in bandages. Giant bird Itsumade says, you know what? That will prove difficult because I can't distinguish insects from people that need to be crushed. These guys, the Gorosei, they don't care about any of these people whatsoever. They're just there to do the one job, namely, which is to stop that broadcast from being put out. We see that we got the downed sandworm, Feng Shi, and a pattern in his giant form as Yuki. They're surprised that the giants are there. We see that the giants have met up with Luffy. There's Luffy talking to Brogy. They're having a really good conversation there, just catching up with old times in such a weird spot. And then we're right here, we have a map of where everybody's located. One Piece loves doing this, loves putting this out to let you know where everybody is. We got Sanji and the deceased Vegapunk. Kind of interesting because this is where they're at, but earlier we saw that they actually caught up to Zoro and Jinbei. Or maybe they were just running in the forest and they're communicating via their snails. Okay, that makes more sense. And then we got Luffy, Brogy, and Dory. Then you show Sanji and Vegapunk running away from them. We got the other Elbaf pirates over here waiting for them. This is going to be the meeting spot. And then we also have Usopp and Nami. It's kind of interesting that they don't have Tony, Chopper, and Brook in this picture. Maybe they couldn't make it big enough because you see that Usopp's nose can take up a lot of space there. So there you go. So that's where everybody is at, and they're planning to go ahead and get there. But we have two competing sounds to tell everybody what's going on. We have Brogy blow that big giant horn, letting all the Elbaf pirates know that it's time to escape. But then we have Finchi, who does this really loud roar that's filled with color of the Supreme King Haki. And you see that it's going and echoing out. And this is kind of interesting. I won't play the entire thing here, but this is so powerful that it actually causes something to happen to Luffy. You see, this is the power of this is Luffy's power all around him. And you see that he's getting ready to have his face. And a whole bunch of things just separated off of him. This is kind of really funny. This reminds you of the nature of Luffy's power, that it's a very cartoonish power that can make him do all kinds of weird things. And that actually got me kind of thinking about live action One Piece with Netflix, and that since live action One Piece is actually based with real characters, when Luffy gets his Gear 5 power in live action One Piece, it should just be kind of like Who Framed Roger Rabbit, whereby Luffy becomes the animated Luffy. I think that would be really cool if Netflix actually did that. They just said, you know what? We're just gonna turn live action Luffy into animated Luffy, and then he can do all kinds of ridiculous things, and everybody's looking at this cartoon version of Luffy across this animated plane. I think that would absolutely be cool. So Netflix, there's an idea right there. If you guys are able to make this series last up until Luffy gets his Gear 5 powers, there you have it. Just turn live action Luffy into animated Luffy. Now, whether he should have his black hair or if he should have the white hair like that, I'll leave that design choice up to you, because it just needs to be an animated version of Luffy and just go from there. I think that would be awesome. So there's some little geeking there right now. And Dory was able to go ahead and stop all the pieces, and Luffy's is putting himself back together. So that I really like that cartoonish nature there. Finchi is telling him that we need to stop Luffy from going back to his original form, because they really want to destroy this particular version of Luffy right there because of what he represents. Finchi's getting ready to attack, but Dory and Brogy are not going to let Finchi actually go ahead and hit them with the attack. So they both stop him with their Svalin Sun Shield. They stop that they advance. Dory and Brogy are very familiar with what these animals look like, because they are familiar with the animals from the Elbaf Island. So they're going to be stopping them right here. Interesting part that's going to be coming up here. Finchi is actually going to ask them, do you have any idea who he is? And both Dory and Brogy don't even hesitate. This is our friend. So then they cast Finchi back with their skills just split. These moves that are named after Vikings. And then it's obvious that Dory and Brogy and the Elbaf pirates are all based off of Vikings. Saint Saturn in his Gyuki form gets ready to shoot a lot of poisonous projectiles at the two giants and Luffy. But once again, Luffy are about to go ahead and use his Gear 5 powers. I like this. How does Luffy know about baseball? Because he's about to turn this into a baseball bat. This is some meta stuff right here. This is Eiichiro Oda showing just how ridiculous Luffy's powers are. I mean, look at it. Look at how long it takes him to go ahead and paint this. Those poisonous projectiles are still coming his way, but he's up here. Hey, you know what? I'm getting ready to play some baseball right here for a minute. Luffy baseball player. So I don't know what the 56 stands for. There might be a reason why they chose the number 56. Maybe you guys in the comments can go ahead and tell me what logic is behind using the number 56. And when he sends them back, instead of them just splatting on them, they actually explode. And even Luffy's surprised, but you're like, what? They exploded? And while all of this is going on, Luffy tells them that they have to get away, because dealing with the Gorosei, they're immortal. They don't have a means to actually go ahead and kill them at this point in time. And then we fast forward over here to the ship. Usopp over here is giving instruction to Tony, Chopper, Lilith, and Edison to try to pull that big giant ship out. Of course, he's not contributing. We got Nami right here. We got Nico Robin right here, still recuperating from all the damage that she took. And then we got Brook back there looking onward as well. They're all trying to get off of this island, but the Navy is standing in their way. They don't want to get them off of there. Over here to York, who is still being chained down by Stussy and Kaku. And that's when Itsumade comes off in there and asks, where's the monitor? Just one last thing right here with Kizaru. The Navy is asking to go ahead and help heal his wounds. And of course, he has a wound of the heart. He betrayed his friend. He killed his friend, actually. He didn't just betray him, he killed him. He knew he did something wrong. And he's confused about the type of justice that he carried out. Did he really do the right thing? Or was he just a Navy dog and decided that he should just keep following orders even though he knew that they were wrong orders? And lastly, we come over here and we see that this giant robot that's been down for a very long time, for centuries in fact, is finally activating and on the march. And the last thing that we have that happens in this episode is this robot apologizing to Joy Boy. Now that's kind of interesting. Like, why is a robot apologizing to Joy Boy? And that's the end of the episode. This episode wasn't as exciting as the last episode, but it still advanced the story. So it really did its job there. And don't worry about next week's episode, because next week's episode is another recap. I tell you, Toei and One Piece and Eiichiro Oda, they really do love dragging this series out and not just putting this, the story out there. This recap is going to be of Cypher Pole Zero, going over all the characters there and their dealings and whatnot. Really don't care about any of them, but that is what it is. Overall, I'll give this episode an 8.5 out of 5. I think One Piece and Toei, I keep saying One Piece and Toei, but Toei in general, Toei and Eiichiro Oda, they need to really they need to get rid of the recapping in and just get right into the episode. Because we already are sacrificing a lot of time for the opening theme and for the ending theme and then for the preview. And when they got the recap put back off in there, like I said, that's about 5 minutes of content. Could be a little bit more than that. Maybe anywhere between 5 to 7 minutes of content that is taken away from the current episode, when all that time should be spent as much as possible putting that story out. But again, 8.5 out of 5 for this episode. Lots of story advancements. We got all the major players that's going to be dealing with this. We got the Elbaf Pirates there. We got the Straw Hat Crew, obviously. We got the Vegapunks. We got the Gorosei. We got the Navy. So this entire incident is very crucial to telling the story going forward. So I really appreciate that. And I think this is a really good episode. What did you guys think about this episode? Was this one of your better episodes, or were you kind of let down on that? What do you guys think about One Piece constantly doing recap episodes? Whatever your thoughts, jump down in the comments below and let me know your thoughts. And make sure you do like, share, subscribe, turn on the post notifications. All that stuff really does help me out. And remember, this is Chris Bolt signing off, and I will catch you guys in the next video. You take it easy.